everybody, and welcome back to Great Takes with a Great Attitude. My name is Zach the World Builder, better known online as Zach the Bold, better known in real life as Zachary Ronaldo. And I just want to start this episode with an apology that it is late. Not that it matters later on after it's posted, you know. People aren't going to care in 2 years when they're looking back at this, you know, as I'm pioneering what it means to be a D&D podcast. New look, by the way, new look. You can tell things look a little bit more cinematic. And I told you guys that I didn't want to use the camera for this podcast, but I'll be honest with you, it's a little bit easier because when certain videos get, oh my God, I'm going to have the Android guys come in my comments. Another L for Apple, another L for Apple. When you record too long on your phone, on an iPhone, and you're uploading to a PC, if the file size is too big, it will not show up on File Explorer when you plug your phone in. So then I have to upload it to Drive or Dropbox, lose like so much fidelity. I don't even know if that's the correct term. It looks worse. And then I gotta, you know, upload it back up to my computer, then upload it to YouTube. So it's a whole thing. But this is a little bit easier. And if you guys want longer episodes, this is a 32-hour podcast, by the way. You could probably tell by the timestamp on it. But yeah, this is probably going to be the new look. And I know that the whole shtick of this podcast is that it's supposed to be raw and like, you know, so real. And like, that was the magic of the first episode. It was me with a Blue Yeti Snowball microphone on a tripod, you know, with recording on my iPhone of me just ranting. And yes, there was a great charm to it. And, you know, I think about Trailer Park Boys or It's Always Sunny. And, you know, the aspect ratio and how the bad quality looked added a lot to the show. This is easier for me. And I hope that it's not too much of a bad thing that, you know, I get to record on my camera that I spent so much money on. That luckily you guys all, you know, pitched in for. So thank you. Thank you. The other thing is that, yes, it is late because yesterday was my birthday. I have turned 26. I have people all in my YouTube comments calling me youngin', and I have everyone on TikTok and Instagram calling me unk. Okay, so I can't seem to find where exactly I'm at because I'm getting attacked on by both sides. That's the crazy thing. I'm 26. Unk status. This kid doesn't know nothing. Youngin'. He only started on 5th edition. All right, I get it. Whatever. Okay, I'm 26. Epic age. Shout out to my 26-year-olds. If you follow me on Instagram, which you should, because that's where I post updates and stories and kind of just about my life and whatever. Or I also said that the podcast episode today would be late because of my weekend. I partied on Friday. Exceeded the 2-drink limit. Shockingly, I post anything with a drink in the background in you know the on my story, and a bunch of people send me messages. Is that under the 2-drink limit? Mr. Zach the Bold. Everyone's fucking with me, you know. But yeah, it has exceeded the 2-drink limit. I was out of the count because I'm 26. I'm unk status now. But yes, I was hungover all Saturday. I could not lift a gosh dang finger, and it really screwed it over so that I had to record today because then Sunday, I spent the whole day with my girlfriend and we were doing stuff and whatever. And we went to Geeky Tees. Shout out to Geeky Tees where I got my first commander deck. So hopefully I do plan at some point making some Magic videos. Not like reviews or anything like that, but like comedy shorts, just getting into that scene. I played Magic years ago, but I was actually into Pokemon trading card game more than I was for Magic. And that was back in high school. And I spent way too much money on that stuff. So I'm hoping to be a little bit more in line this time around and a little bit more financially responsible. But it was a great birthday. Thank you to everyone who said happy birthday to me. The only place I posted that was Instagram. But yeah, I'm 26 now. I got to get health insurance figured out. I just don't think I'll get sick. That's my solution. But it was great. I love all my friends. We hung out. We went out to a bar that sucked, and we got a good food in Los Angeles. And then after that, we just played board games, and we did that on Sunday as well, and it was really cool. And I posted on Instagram, you know, that I'm like, I am super grateful for everything that has happened in the last year. But what I left out was that I was actually contrasting it not to last year's, like how I felt last year. Last year, things were picking up and it felt exciting. I was like, where am I going to be in a year? I was more reflecting back on 2 years ago when I had my birthday with different friends and different people, and I did not have anything going for me. And I was in Los Angeles and super alone. And I could not have my birthday on my birthday. So I tried to double up because I was a server at the time. And you know, it's hard to get Halloween off because everyone wants Halloween off when you're a new server at a new restaurant. So I messaged my friends at the time and I said, hey guys, and this is weeks in advance. This is weeks and weeks in advance. I say, hey guys, I would love to go out on this day near Halloween so that we can both celebrate my birthday and also go out for Halloween because I won't have the option to do both. I'm much too busy. I'm working, you know, the serving jobs and I work nights. They're like, yeah, no problem. Hey, we'll request that day off, whatever. Because this is, once again, more than 3 weeks in advance. 2 weeks pass by. Hey guys, just a reminder, on this day, we are going to be celebrating my birthday. And it's only 2 friends that could really make it because I only had 2 friends at the time, really. I was like, hey, just so you guys know, like, make sure to get this time off, whatever. I'll see you there. We can pregame at my place and then, you know, go out afterwards. And they're like, yeah. Well, they didn't really say anything. And then then, you know, pretty much the day before the day out, I was like, hey guys, tomorrow we're doing this. Make sure to dress up. We're going to go out to the club, have a good time. And they messaged me. They're like, hey, sorry, didn't get it off. I'll get there at around 11:15. They both said the same thing. So on the day, I dressed up, got in all Halloween regalia. I, you know, pre-gamed by myself. I drank Twisted Tea, playing, I think, Dead by Daylight, getting in the Halloween mood, which is not a horror game, by the way. And get to the club at around 11:10. Got a drink, got a good spot in the club, nice DJ, really good music. And 11:15 came, and then 11:30, 11:45, midnight. At midnight, I get a text from both. From one, the other person did not text me back, and they were like, "Hey, can't make it. Sorry. Have a good time." So I was alone, pretty intoxicated, in the middle of the club. I was like 2 rows back from the front, from where what is that called? The barrier is. And I was like, whatever, the music's good. I'll just drink a little bit and, you know, have a good time. I am pretty sloshed at this moment, so my eyes are closed. I'm bobbing to music. And I'm 6'2", by the way. 6'2", by the way. And so in Los Angeles crowds, I stand up a little bit taller than most people. So I'm in the second row, bobbing my head. My eyes are closed. I open them. Now there's two DJs going at the same time. And I open my eyes. I notice one of them who isn't like whatever on the friggin', isn't turning all the knobs and whatever DJs do. And he's looking right at me and his eyes are like wide, but there's some menacing aura to them. He picks up the mic and goes, if you're in the front row and not fucking with our music, and he's saying this to me as he's locked eyes, get the fuck back. Drops the mic down and then salutes me. He's looking at me and he salutes me. I'm aghast looking at him. And now I'm like, well, I can't leave now. Like so I start forcing myself to dance. And then as I'm like, this just happened, I feel a little tug on my arm and I look to the right and there's 2 girls and they're like, hey, where are your friends? I go, I'm going to go to the bathroom. I left. I left drunk at like 12:30 on my birthday celebration that year and just went to bed. And I told my mom this story and she felt so bad that she wanted to fly out every year to Los Angeles to make sure that I had a birthday. Luckily enough, I got better friends. Life has been way better since then. And yeah, so I reflect back on that time and on that birthday and how much, progress I've really made, both for, my personal life and also just my professional one. But yeah, it was quite a nightmare for that. So this birthday has been a lot better. But yeah, make sure to watch Chaos Theory. That is, airs every Friday at sometime around 8 Pacific, Eastern, at 8 Eastern. And I never get it right. But yeah, that should be about it. There were some things in the last comments that I didn't really, it's not that I didn't want to go over them, but I've noticed an uptick, even though I made fun of this kind of player / person a million times. I have Pathfinder and other TTRPG bros coming into the comments and just being like, 5e sucks, 5e sucks. And I'm like literally making fun of you. I'm literally like, hey, this is not the way to do that. And they come in, they're like, well, high level play for D&D is bad. I know, but it can be done. It's not the worst thing in the world. It's not impossible to do. I've not played Pathfinder high level play, whatever, okay? It's not impossible to do, whatever. And there's not even anything to say about that. There's literally nothing even to say about something like that. Ever since I touched Baldur's Gate 3, I knew this is going to change the way players look at real TTRPGs. Jump distances, shop prices, bonus action economy, spell interactions. Clearly based off of your XP video, you have some opinions. Can you please go off on know-it-all players who played Baldur's Gate 3 and act like they've been playing since 2nd edition? Yes, this is, I want to preface this. I love Baldur's Gate. I think it was a really good thing for the TTRPG community that Baldur's Gate 3 exists. All right. I think, we should not discourage new people coming into the game based off of something like Baldur's Gate 3 existing. I have been waiting for a long time to play like a Warhammer 40K game where it's just the Warhammer 40K, like actual tabletop game. And let me know if there is one, because that'd be awesome. I'd love to play that. Because it would, one, get me into the game. Other than I'm not paying those abhorrent prices for minis. That's insane. And then the second thing is that it would, let me play the game without being at the table. And Baldur's Gate is a great way to that, because if you think about it, the reason that a lot of people consume a lot of TTRPG content as well is because it's not something you can play whenever you want. And Baldur's Gate makes it so you can play some version of 5th edition, kind of. Now, with that being said, I was playing Pathfinder 2nd edition. I was playing Pathfinder 2nd edition when a player said, well, in Baldur's Gate 3, it was a person trying to wild shape. Well, in Baldur's Gate 3, they let you. What? What do you mean in Baldur's Gate 3? Dude, this is Pathfinder. That's like saying, well, in Ocarina of Time, I could have. That's not what this game is. This isn't even the same system. That Baldur's Gate is a loose system of 5th edition. It's not even the same thing. We're not playing that game. So there is I don't think it's the worst thing in the world for these new people to come in. I actually like a lot of the changes. I think Berserker Barbarian is better than the 2024 edition of D&D, and they did it better in Baldur's Gate. The other thing is I like that shove can be a bonus action. I like that. There are good quality of life changes that can be added into the game. I don't think it's the worst thing. But I've had interactions with some people that are Baldur's Gate, that's where I came from, and well, in Baldur's Gate it does this. I don't care. And this falls under the same category of well, in my home game, well, in this, well, actually, well, this D&D, content creator said this, and I don't care. This is my game. This is how I run it in any capacity. I don't care if you're coming in from Baldur's Gate 3, all right? This is not Baldur's Gate 3. This is my TTRPG set in, my anthropomorphic animal. This is my Transformers-based D&D 5e session. I don't think Baldur's Gate is a bad thing in the sense that it's bringing in people who are annoying in this sense. Because we talk about every week advanced players who do come in from 2nd edition and make everything way worse, right? Make it way worse. They are coming in with a different pretext to what this game is, much like if anyone came in, playing with their grandpa or, their unk status dad, or if they came in from, watching The Adventure Zone or Critical Role or whatever, right? What you do is you call him a stupid, dumb little baby, and this is how my game works. Either way, you put everybody in this same group, and you go, nope, nope, nope. That's actually not how it works. And if you want one, I'll give you a crybaby point right now. It's all about, learning. It's great. We cannot gatekeep people, if they come in and don't play exactly how you want to right away because of something else, right? It's not the worst thing in the world if they are, coming in from something else. But then you have to be you actually can't shove as a bonus action. Oh, okay. Why? Well, because the rules. Okay, why? Because it's an action, attack, action. I think we can look at Baldur's Gate in some ways and be like, wow, they actually did refine something because it took 10 years to have any kind of update into the core rulebook, right? So maybe we can have a little bit of a lighter heart and just be like, but if they do come into a Pathfinder 2nd edition game and be like, well, in Baldur's Gate, I give you full permission to go, you are the dumbest person I've ever met in my life. I'm joking, but do not come into my game and be like, well, in Baldur's Gate, well, in my home game, I don't care. I do not care. Stop telling me, dude. Stop telling me. I think too, and this is not a hot take. Wow, shocker. This is not a hot take. XP in Baldur's Gate 3 works really well for whatever it is, right? Because it is a literally preset, no matter they could have a million, right, outcomes for the game, which they pretty much do. And it'd have the same problem that there is a pre-made route to get there. There are still limited ways that you can get there, right? And I think that's why XP works fine in Baldur's Gate, because it's also a video game, right? How can you milestone? I mean, it would be fine. They totally could milestone, but it makes sense to have XP because then it encourages exploration and things like that in a video game. In a D&D game, it is not the same thing, all right? So I don't think saying Baldur's Gate 3 having XP is a good example of why D&D games should have XP, right? Because these are for different things. I've talked about this before, but I'm playing very loosely. We're playing Icewind Dale, Revenge of the Frost Maiden or something like that. And the thing about that module is it was the first, and we're playing it, when I say we're playing it super loose, we are playing it by the book. So my DM will literally just be like, hey, you guys want to play Icewind Dale in an hour? I'll go look at some pages. And he does. And then, we start up and we play, and it's like very comical, not serious, low role play. Well, we still role play a good amount, but like it's just literally to get through the book so we can like just have fun with it and also scratch the itch of just playing D&D whenever we want. And it was the first time that anybody just put a map out in front of me and was just like, where do you want to go? And you know what the first thing me and my roommate said? We were like, where does the plot want us to go? So I don't think I just don't see the appeal that you're like, well, XP will encourage everyone to look around. It's dependent on your party, and you should establish this on session 0. Well, okay, but if your players at the table go, okay, can we just like get the plot? Can we just get the plot? Well, Zach, that's not how the book works. I don't care, right? I'm not playing for XP. I'm not playing for grind. Why am I grinding in my D&D game? I don't want to. I want to play through the story. This is why we want to play through the book. We want to get through it, right? I still want to role play and interact with the world and whatever. But just like say, and listen, this is not a dig on my DM at all. This is what we asked for. And if this is how the module was made to be this open-ended, then that's fine, right? But I just can't, it's so not my game when like the whole premise is just like, well, where do you want to go? Can I go to the place where it doesn't waste my time? Can I go to the place where I'm actually interested in the game? Can I do that? Well, Zach, in Skyrim, dude, these are video games. This is different, right? I have a limited amount of time to get all my friends together to play this game. I'm not gonna grind and explore and do whatever. I don't have time for that. I want to learn a good story. I want it to be like intimate and well done and well crafted. It's two different things, right? It's two different things. It's so not my thing. Hi, Zach. English isn't my first language, so this might sound a bit clunky. I apologize in advance. I'm a first-time DM playing with a group of 5 friends, most of whom have never played a D&D session, who never played D&D or any other TTRPG. We had a long session 0 in which I outlined, well, that's actually a great thing. I'm so glad that you did. In which I outlined the rough setting of the plot so they could plan their character accordingly, and I helped them through every step of character creation, explaining classes and stuff. Everything went smoothly until one of them told me he wanted to play a character similar to the protagonist of a manhwa he was reading. Couldn't tell you the name for the life of me. So he wanted to play a homebrew class that used key points. I told him something along the lines of, hey, hey, could you just make my life easier and play monk? But he refused and said I'm limiting him, so I agreed because I'm a pushover. Now it's become a problem because this class he got from a random PDF he found online is written like shit. He has 2 different modifiers to be added to each attack, a ton of OP abilities at level 2, etc. And he gets pissy every time I remove something. At one point he had to choose a type of key to be born with. I don't even fucking know. And they asked me which one was more powerful. So I told him to just pick one which sounded fun or fit his character's theme. And he replied, and I quote, my character's theme is being strong. So I need to know which one is strongest. I told him to stop min-maxing. And he said it's what his character would do. My God. So now the question is, do I unalive him or myself? He's a close friend, so I don't want him to ruin his fun. I don't want to ruin his fun and kick him out, but I also don't want to make myself miserable. Do I just suck it up? If you yell at me, I'll cry myself to sleep. Keep it up. Good work, my sweaty king. I don't know much about manhwas, right? But isn't like the big thing about those is that it's just like one big power fantasy for most of those things? I do not let your players, especially if they're new or if they're like they played for 2 or 3 times. Sometimes you have like new players and then you have somebody who's like, I played like 2, 3 or 4 times. And you're like, well, I can give them a little bit more leniency because these guys literally have no idea what they're doing. Do not give them that leniency with like classes they find online, right? I have had this problem so many times. We've talked about new classes in the last episode, right? But I also said that if you do come with me to the new class, get it out of Grim Hollow. Like, get it out of like an Unearthed Arcana page that has like 1 million votes, right? Don't come to me with this weird, well, it's based off of, oh my gosh, well, it's part of my backstory. My character would actually do, this class really resonates with my backstory. I don't care what rinky-dink, homebrew, dumb, stupid, like, power projecting fantasy class that you have. Do not bring it into my game. And for the love of God, if you knew that this was going to be something that you did not want in your game, tell your friends no. Clearly, this is a healthy, like-minded individual, right? Like, they know exactly what they're looking for, and they know exactly what they're doing. Well, my character's backstory is that they are Goku Super Saiyan 11. I don't know anything about Dragon Ball. I don't care. Well, actually, guess what? You're not playing that. Actually, guess what? You're not playing that in my stupid game. My awesome, epic Steven Spielberg game. That is such a new DM trap. I have people ask me all the time, what's the new DM advice? Do not let your like person who's played, D&D one time at a friend's house at Thanksgiving tell you that it's okay for them to bring in this homebrew class because it's what my character would have. It's what my character would have. What's my advice to that? Tell them no. Tell them no. I like to have things that have been play tested thoroughly that will fit well. I'm not letting you because it's what I took something. Well, actually, I made a multi-class. I made a multi-class that takes a little bit of this and a little bit of that. I take all of it's technically play tested because I'm taking it from other classes. I take the Paladin Smite and the Rogue Sneak Attack and the Wizard's Evocation rules and the Sorcerer's Eldritch Blast but it works well because it's all no. Yes, I'm glad you established that you are a pushover. Tell your players no, they cannot bring in a new class. And what? He's actually, hey, this is actually my best friend of 11 years. They're like super cool, super level-headed, whatever. But every time we get into this game, he goes into a crazy power fantasy and he will bawl his eyes out at my table if I don't let him. He poo-poos in his diaper and he cries at the table. Oh, Zach, what's your advice? Oh, okay, super cool. He's best man at your wedding and everything like that. Oh, cool, yeah. Have you told him no? Oh, well, he's super reasonable until I tell him no, and then he poo-poos in his diaper like I wrote in. Oh, okay, so it seems like this guy isn't as reasonable as you're saying because you're telling him in a game we make up in our heads that he can't be Goku, Super 11, Super Saiyan God, Broly, whatever. And he's like, well, it's, I didn't make it. I found it online. It's what my character would do. You know what your character would do? Get launched into the sun. You know what your character would do? I don't care what your character would do. Well, I'm actually, that's metagaming if not. Shut up about stupid metagaming. I don't care, all right? I will tell you as the DM when you are metagaming. Zach, people write in, Zach, my players My players look at all the stat blocks that they have, ever made. And they tell me when I'm running my monsters wrong. Also, I have it so he's playing Super Saiyan, 45. He's Naruto. He's Pain from the Pain arc from Naruto. I'm listing off all anime I have not seen. What should I do? I'm a little bit of a pushover, but he's a level-headed guy. Except he puts plastic explosives under the table when we don't give him his way. But he's a level-headed guy. Yeah, he seems like a real level-headed guy. It seems like it. We all get together to play this game, whatever, and you tell him no once. He's a real level-headed guy. He's like a feral dog in the corner. He's level-headed. Let me play my homebrew class. Real level-headed. He's my best friend, best man at my wedding. Zach, what do I do? I don't want to hurt his feelings. I just want to live with him doing this little power fantasy during my games. Tell him no. Well, I told him yes earlier. Okay, tell him no now. Tell him, thank you for proving to me that this class doesn't work. Thank you for proving to me that I'll never let anyone bring in their homebrew classes ever again. Well, Zach, how do I get myself out of this hole I dug? What hole? What hole? At any time, you do realize at any time you can just be like, hey, I was wrong to trust you, and I was wrong to think that you'd be a level-headed, normal person about this whole thing. Zach, my best friend who's calm, foaming at the mouth in the corner. What is it? What is this table we're at? What is this table we're at? Okay, so there's a guard's tower overlooking the field. There's spotlights going through it. Torches are lit, walking by pathways of different armored guards. Okay, well, I will. Oh, well, just let's just rogue. Is there anything you can do? Yeah, I'll cast Pass Without Trace. I'm a for whatever Trickster Monk, Trickster Rogue, and I'll go. Well, actually, I have a Power Beam level 4, and I can just decimate all of them. Well, I did say that you could have this. All the other players are looking. Well, what about me? Well, this is what his character would do. What rationality is that? Well, it's what my character would do. I don't care what your character would do. I don't care. Stop telling me that. Stop giving me that excuse. Hey, Zach, new DM here. I literally don't know what I'm doing, so forgive me if the question is misguided or lacks experience. Don't worry, I've never once made fun of anybody who has written down ever. My group and I have been playing for a few months. They rarely befriend any NPCs they meet. So annoying. As they generally not very trusting, except towards an NPC they met session 1, a drunkard halfling named Swig, who they bring around because they thought this character was funny. Even in combat encounters, Swig is so useless he just takes sip from his leather flask and narrowly avoids death every time. They think it's hilarious. Awesome. I sort of had a really awesome way I could twist Swig's character to betray the party and be deeply connected to the BBEG. From my perspective, I think it fits pretty well. But is this a no-no? It is generally looked down upon to change story points like this in the middle of is it generally looked down upon to change story points like this in the middle of a campaign? I don't want to get into a situation where my players think I modified the story around them, but my end goal is to try and evoke a more emotional reaction from the party as they don't care much about anything except loot, killing monsters, and this drunkard halfling Swig. Thanks, Zach. Hey, Zach, writing in. Hey, none of my players trust any NPC they come across, except this one funny guy. Should I make it so he betrays the whole party? I don't know why, but my characters don't trust any NPC except this one guy. So should he betray all of them? What are you saying, dude? Yes, I think that's a bad idea. Well, it'll make my villain more complex. You have a great thing, because it seems like this party does not care about much motivation or anything else at all. And as a person who probably writes a lot of lore and wants your friends to be involved, this doesn't seem like that kind of party. And it seems like you're doing the right thing where it's serious world, funny characters, right? If you have a silly world, the funny jokes aren't going to hit as hard, right? So don't blame them that they are attached to Swig, right? Because he seems to be this one funny character. I don't think you should make him betray the party to show your villains, because they don't need that motivation as much, right? They're just going to be like, Swig was the one cool fun thing that we had. Well, my players don't trust the NPCs. I get that. I don't think that you taking their one friend and making him betray the party is going to fix that. We go through all of these different hoops to try to make it where it's like, well, the one thing my players like, I think I'm going to make it betray them and ruin the whole thing. We don't have to do that. We don't have to do that. See what engages your party. Do they just want a dungeon crawl? Then you just have a dungeon crawling party. I'm sorry, there's not much you can do with that if they don't care, right? You can try to engage them. I don't think it'd be cool, in my opinion, I think it'd be cool if Swig does nothing, right? To have a moment where he does do something and come into the aid of, the friends. And then maybe, someone attacks Swig. That'll get your whole party onto this. That's a villain moment, right? Not having Swig betray somebody. You have Swig get hurt by the big bad guy, so they have motivations because they like Swig so much. Please do not take the one NPC that they have away from them. I talked a lot about this, I think 2 or 3 episodes ago, where players are looking for that Brennan Lee Mulligan, jaw-dropping, stunning Matt Mercer moment, right? But this is also the same thing, of course, with DMs. And sometimes we get a little too caught up in that moment that we ruin the aspects of the game that they actually really want, the players that they really want. So I would highly recommend if you have a party who does not trust any NPCs for the life of them, right? For whatever reason you have concocted into this story, the answer is not to just take away the one NPC they trust, because then they definitely won't trust any more NPCs. Listen, if you have a full table that does not care about the stakes, momentum of your story, they literally only care about Swig, clearly this is a party that just doesn't care that much and they just want to have a fun time and whatever. It's hard to get people engaged, but I guarantee you if you take the option of we're going to injure Swig, this will work out a little bit better. Concentrate on your players' reactions to the environment that you are setting up so that you can further, think about how you can switch up their mentality to be more engaged into your story, as opposed to, consistently having them be berated down until they're finally engaged in the story. You can switch up their mindset a little bit about this thing. I think I've had the problem too where my players are so smart that they figure out plot points, and it seems like that I have molded the story around so that they, I think back to when I first taught my brother how to play D&D. And he was like, I said, one was an orc, one was a dwarf. I said, in Dwarvish, if you can read Dwarvish because you're a dwarf, then it says this. And then he's like, well, what if it was written Elvish? Well, then it'd probably be he was like, what if it was in a different language? And I was like, it would probably be an Orcish, right? And I realized that really bummed him out because it's like the world is malleable around their story as opposed to them being a part of this bigger structure. So it's okay if your players feel like that. Sometimes coincidence is coincidence. The stars align and they figure out something before whatever. And, maybe a joke that they make actually ends up happening, but you already had that planned. That's a railroad. Sorry, there's sometimes, predetermined outcomes based off of reality. Just in general in life. Is that so bad? I don't think so. So if we look at overall, not worrying that we're going to mess up because someone makes a joke and in this exact scenario that you just told me, you are making a problem. You're making the problem that you plan on them betraying the party for whatever reason to get them more engaged. So you're worried, you're coming and asking me a question and being like, I'm worried that they're worried I have predetermined outcomes and also I have a predetermined outcome. So, okay, so they were right for worrying. There's a different way to go about this. I totally think it's fine. I think it's recoverable. And I think at any point you can just retcon. I have a little guy in my game. His name is Private Retcon. And he'll come over and he'll give extra information. He'll be like, sir, I have orders from the captain that I forgot to give you. It's okay. You can shoehorn stuff. You can fix at any point. Make the villain a villain. Please do not make the good guys a villain so that your players are disinterested in your game. If this is where I send my SOS, then thanks for reading it. I got a question for making combat interesting. I just try to keep a second objective in encounters so mass murder isn't the only solution. But to make the actual combat fun, I need to implement homebrew rules. First, we include a bloody rule. If an NPC is down to 1 HP, the DM declares they are bloody, and once a player lands a hit, they can create a cinematic execution. Secondly, we run a called shot rule with a twist. If you roll 10 above the target's AC, you can make a called shot against a limb, crippling that part. Okay, so first, as I'm sure a bunch of people listening to this have already noticed, so bloodied is already a term in D&D combat. That's when they reach half HP. So even if you have this thing, which I don't even know why it exists in the first place, I'd call it something else. So I don't understand. Okay, so I don't understand why your players have to call out, or you have to call out that they're at 1 HP or lower or whatever, and then they can create an execution. Zach, my combat is really boring, but I force my players to do a certain thing to make it so that they can role play their combat. That's not a solution. That's. I think you're going about combat too wrong if that is your solution for this kind of thing, right? So let you narrate your combat a little bit more. Well, then that slows it down. Okay, but is it not as engaging otherwise, right? So bloodied is already a thing. Use a different term for that so that you don't confuse players and whatever. It is bloodied in the DMG, which is an optional DM rule, is that is when a monster is at half health, right? It's at half health. I do Death's Door, this, like Brian Murphy does in NADPOD. This character's on Death's Door, and I'll say, how do you finish this? How do you do this? Whatever, and like keep them engaged, and don't limit them on their executions. It's flavor, right? It doesn't matter. Don't let them. That should just be ingrained. And if you're worried about players, and I've always been on the side of like, I run a player's table of 6, which is not insane, but it is higher. At one person by player. 7 is way bigger than 6, and 6 is way bigger than 5 when it comes to parties. I know when the time comes, my players will be engaged in combat. I will narrate and things, whatever, but I will not feel personally offended if they're not engaged in the combat. Right? I feel like by the end, we have 17 homebrew rules to keep people engaged, and then they're just more burnt out by the end of the session. It's okay if for a little bit they just did their turn, and now whole thing's going to go around that they're on their phone a little bit, right? Now, if they're asking every time, what just happened? That's on them. But don't be so concerned with having to add 17 homebrew rules to try to make it so people are more engaged. Add more homebrew rules so that things can be a little bit smoother, and also so that they have a little bit more fun, all right? I don't think remember, role play should be inside of combat a little bit, and I think those are the best fights. Antagonize your players a little bit, have them talk. If it's too much numbers, people are gonna be disengaged anyways. As for the second one, I don't understand. I know that you're trying to keep combat more interesting, but adding more homebrew rule, So now what? So this is keeping players more interesting. They have a +10, and then they get to roll on a wild table, and a different limb is hurt, and so now this person is like, I don't get the idea of this is engaging for some other things, right? I don't know if adding that's cool, and if it can happen to them, then it's I don't understand why we would add this stuff to the combat to try to keep it more engaging. I'm glad that you're keeping the idea that they don't have to just fight something all the time, right? And that's the goal, is to fight something and beat it. And maybe there's a secondary objective. I did talk about how having one big combat per level or whatever is kind of to the detriment of your party and how 5th edition works. But at the same time, if it's too much combat and there's too much of a gauntlet, people are going to be disinterested anyways. What should be the main focal point is, how are you making your combat engaging like a story, right? I thoroughly believe that you should think of combat like a story arc, right? You have exposition, you're setting the stage, you have a rising action, you have, the abilities and the attacks are being shown off in a way to demonstrate the power scale and the threat of these enemies, as well as what is the goal. And then you have the climax. This is like the nearing the end of the fight, when, what is going to happen? Is there a twist? Is there something that changes the combat? Is there, just the moment where someone triumphs and gets a big crit? You can't plan for that kind of stuff, but it should follow still the same structure as a story to keep people interested. And then there's a quick, cleanup, and then, denouement, however you say that French word. And that levels it out. I don't think taking that idea and throwing it out the window and being like, well, if I add more wild magic tables, layer actions, whatever, that's going to keep players interested. I think you have looked at the combat aspect enough. You should start looking at the structure of these fights. How can I keep them engaged by adding a twist? How can I have them engaged by keeping, adding new layers of complexity to the story that is this exact fight, right? I don't believe in the idea of, adding so many homebrew rules to keep things refreshed and like having different objectives, where there isn't just a fight that you can just go. And I think you've looked at that enough. And you need to start looking at the structure and engagement in the story and where it's placed inside of this. Now, if you're running a random encounter, which, yes, I know in the DMG that it says that random encounters might not be fun for people and it's fluff. Now, if you're running that, it's a whole different thing. And I don't believe in random encounters, and I think it's stupid and dumb and dumb and stupid and dumb. But, I think there's a point to looking at combat, not from a gameplay perspective, but from a story perspective, and how to keep your players engaged through, rising action, falling action, climax, all of that. So take a peek at that. Bloodied is not that. Do not look at that. Whatever. Greetings, Zach. I love your D&D shorts. You are extremely hilarious. I wanted to ask you an important question because I'm a beginner DM who's trying to improve my skills to run an effective game for my friends. Our recent session was building up to a boss battle with a necromancer who they decided to try and assassinate without him noticing. They succeeded in every way possible. Stealth check I threw at them, and afterwards they ambushed and killed him in one round. They didn't remember this until I brought it up, but one of the player sessions ago had a vision that a small battalion of necromancer's forces invading the town they were in, and lo and behold, they started to hear them approaching. And that's where the session ended. I don't know if my subconscious is talking or what, but I feel as though I should have handled it better. We haven't had a chance to play again for almost a month now because life has gotten in the way and there's no indication that they had a problem with it. How could I improve ending the sessions in a way that doesn't feel jarring? Thanks, Joseph. Couple of things here that I want to address. Number one is now, did you make it in such a way that you're like, this is impossible to stealth in? Well, I rolled a 42 stealth, and I just made a video about this last week. I rolled a 42 stealth. Like, why can't I get in? Because your stealth ability, right, is telling you that this is impossible to do. It's okay. That is not railroading. Oh my God, that is not putting boundaries and taking away your player's agency. Sometimes things can't just be rolled and, made it so that you can bypass anything. Well, I rolled a 34 on my strength check to break through this wall. Okay, well, it's made out of whatever, right? It doesn't even feasibly make sense that you'd be able to do something like this. If you find yourself in this kind of area, right, and if they sneak into a necromancer's tower and they haven't defeated anything, right, there's going to be repercussions for that. You should make it as noticeable as possible that there will be repercussions for such an idea, right? Maybe they're walking through the hallway and they hear, people's attention. Maybe there's a scrying eye that's going around and that, there's some kind of surveillance thing for the necromancers. And, clearly this is too far past this. Do not think you're in the wrong if you make now some kind of battle to make it so that whatever battle you would have had with the big bad will happen now with this horde of necromancers that have zombies, skeletons, flesh golems, things like that. It's never feel like you've put yourself into a position that you cannot get out of, because you can literally mold the world around you and do whatever you want to do. If they had fun, that's great. But also, if this is the problem with current surprise rounds. I hate surprise rounds. I'm glad they're changing it up in the 2024 rules, because I think surprise rounds are so stupid. Because if you have a surprise round on PCs, they hate it. Oh, they hate it. And it will literally change a whole fight, because everybody gets a free hit a free hit for no reason. It ruins fights. People are always asking me, I'm prepping this to do this, and I'm preparing an action to do this and whatever. You don't think the bad guy is also doing that? You don't think the bad guy is also prepping something? Only if there was a way to measure, who could go first and is first to react based off of a dexterity stat. Oh my God, it's called initiative. I hate surprise. I hate it. It ruins every combat encounter, and players hate being surprised. They hate being ambushed, because if it's down to one perception, then they feel the effects that they have of being like having a full round where they do not play that. It's not even about playing the game. It's literally about balancing the encounter. I hate surprise. And I hate how much my players are always asking something, because in a way they are also getting a third person look into the world, because I have to, describe to them what is going on. It's crazy to me that we allow surprise rounds for PCs for enemies who are ready to fight. While I'm stealthing, I'm hitting in the corner. Can I get a surprise round on them? Can I get one surprise attack? Now that's a little bit better, right? If one character gets a surprise attack and the others don't. But to have a whole team, that's out of everything. I always hate when people fall into the trap of, well, my players did roll really good. Okay, but did they roll for something impossible? And now you're just letting them do that? Because rolling a 40 on stealth doesn't make them invisible. People can still see them. Yes, they're stealthy, but sometimes their intuition takes over. They know these things, right? But for a surprise action, it's like your villains and your players and your NPCs are so dumb and unaware that they're going to get the jump on, somebody or something without any kind of retaliation. They can have this victory, right? But they have to also realize that there may be some kind of, stipulation into the effects of what's going to happen to them. You know what I mean? If Gordon Freeman went and fought Breen right away, there would have been repercussions for these kinds of things. And that is okay. That's not going to take away their player agency. That's not going to be whatever. You've not written yourself into a trap. If you're looking for some kind of big bad thing, whatever, first off, how did they get to this person without being seen? Well, they rolled so high. Oh my God. Give me a break. Give me a break. I say take out, well, I want to prepare an action. Well, how about it doesn't make sense for you to prepare an action because the villain is also preparing an action for something like this. Surprise rounds are tricky. Do not give your team a full thing of surprise rounds. I don't even know how they all stealthed in there. Did you take a group average? Did 3 out of the 5 roll above the certain threshold? How did you get into this situation? But you can always get yourself out of it. You can always get yourself out of these things. And you have so much time to think about it. I'm glad that it ended right here. I've ended games mid-combat, mostly in Adventures League, right? Because it's a strict 3-hour thing. But sometimes, we're getting a higher level. We're going to have to stop in combat sometimes, especially if we've role played for half the session. You know what I mean? That's okay. Just take a picture of it, remember where everything is, and get back to it at some time, right? It's not the worst thing in the world to stop mid-combat. It's 1 a.m. Everyone has work tomorrow. Well, we got to finish this combat. There's only 2 hours left of it. No, stop. Play, rethink, your strategies, whatever. It seems like you're not even playing again for a little bit, right? Just stay in this. You have this wonderful thing where you can just stay and play or stay and think about what you want to do, right? This is a non-problem. You can figure it out. It will be fine. Make a good fight for them, right? Okay, one of my players in a previous session paralyzed, this is the last part of his question. One of my players in a previous session paralyzed another player to prevent him from starting combat with a green hag who offered the party a deal. Was this wrong? Now, a couple of things. If you make a deal, if you have a player who makes a deal, do not let that affect the other players in the party, right? When it comes to Will's contract in Baldur's Gate, right? And I'm just using this because I think it is a good example. If he fails his stuff, the whole party doesn't get descended into a furnace, right? It's his story, his problem, his deal, his thing. Do not let someone making a deal affect the rest of the party, right? And that should be established. That should be established in any sense of the word, right? When we look at players paralyzing, stunning, attacking other players, it falls under the thing of PvP. And I don't like PvP because people will get mad that other people do it. In this case, right, maybe the hag could have counterspelled or something or paralyze, stop the paralyze in some way, lesser restoration, greater restoration, whatever. Doesn't matter. But just know, and I've said this before, just be player to player. Each one of you guys can take a deal. It will not affect the rest of you. That's what I'll say. Because it is kind of unfair, and it does take away the player's agency if they don't want to take a deal and one of their other friends, are playing dumb and then they're affected because of that. I think that's a stupid thing to do. Never encourage PvP in this way because this is the kind of nasty PvP that's going to get people mad and upset. So don't do it. Be very obvious with your players that one of their decisions will not affect everyone in this case because, if someone wants to make a deal, it shouldn't affect the rest of the party, right? Okay, here's the super chats. Thomas Anderson, 3281, sent $5, said, hey, Mr. Bold, I need you to tell my friend Nick that DMs can roll insight for the players behind the screen, which is so true. Love the podcast. You make Mondays a lot better, and I feel like I'm learning a lot about being a good DM from you. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much. GPM Studios sent $5. Love the show, buddy. Keep it up. Thank you, GPM Studios. I really appreciate it. Swifty Bear sent $5. Says, love listening to this while painting minis and looking up to seeing you furiously pointing at the camera. Thank you, Swifty Bear. Appreciate ya. X James 373X sent $10. Thanks. Send a question in, hoping it makes it in. Keep it bold, brother. Dying Pand Frog sent £2, £2. Thank you for the rants. Question: are we boulders? BOLDERS or BOULDERS? I think it's BOLDERS. That makes sense, as in the fan name. And remember, if you ever want to see a fan that is a boulder, say, what time does the narwhal bacon? The answer is midnight. See, my fellow unks will get that reference. Axel Loodle sent $2. D&D Germa, it's Pajama Demon, by the way. Just changed my name. Cool. Oh yeah, okay, cool. Jokes aside, love your content. I'm in college right now. I'm trying to balance running the D&D club there, playing in and running campaigns and just art school stuff in general. Wish me luck. That's a lot, but it's super cool. You'll learn a lot of good life value from that, especially running a club. And I would love to hear about some of the problems you probably have running that club, because it is so brutal. It's been a lot of, the big discourse right now is like, why does D&D attract so many people that play like babies? Well, it's also the fact that we have people coming in trying to play D&D like a JRPG or a grinding game or a dungeon crawl or a narrative-based game, and they're getting together with other players that do not want to play that same kind of game, right? I think also there is just a level of there are nerds who play D&D. D&D is a very nerdy thing, right? And, it does attract some people who, might in some way not have, the social skills that someone might have in other kinds of extracurriculars, right? And I think it's always good to have patience with a lot of people, right? But it is, if someone is being detrimental to your fun, or if they're saying things that are disparaging against you, or if you're just in any way, in any kind of way, in an unsafe environment, you have to handle that in any way you would any other sport. There is any other sport. I'm just saying in any other extracurricular. I think back to sports and things like that. Guys, have you guys ever played a team-based sport? There are toxic people in that as well. I feel like that's a very limiting thing that, is said so much in discourse online about what D&D is and why does it attract these kinds of people and whatever. It's also because the discourse that we have is, of course, about the bad stuff. People write me in all the time and they have a non-issue, or they're just asking for advice, or they're just giving me lore on their worlds or something like that. And it's not something that makes for good entertainment. We're not going on r/great D&D moments and reacting, being like, that's really cool. I'm glad that happened. So the discourse, of course, the discourse is around, the bad DMs and the problem players and whatever, and that's very much emphasized. I think that's a real thing, and a lot of people deal with it. I've dealt with plenty of bad players and DMs and things like that, but it's not any different really than, gosh, I think about theater, right? When I did theater, anyone who's in theater knows when the main cast is put up, oh my God, and the parents of theater kids and stuff. It's brutal to do. It's brutal. It's a cutthroat, brutal, toxic wasteland of things like that. And that's any curriculum. People play Magic, and it's the same way. Why is D&D in particular? Listen, what we should be talking about and encouraging is that D&D is a great way to learn social skills and develop confrontational skills that make it so that everybody involved is a better person by the end, right? I think the bad is emphasized, and it's not the good isn't talked about enough. This thing wouldn't be as big as it is if it wasn't good and awesome and fun and amazing, right? But it's not one way or another. Go play Ultimate Frisbee. Go play kickball in a kickball league. Go, Lord have mercy, go do community theater, and you'll realize anywhere there's going to be people where it's bad. I think it's unhealthy and bad because I think we gatekeep a lot in this community, to be totally honest with you. I think people gatekeep all the time for D&D and like, well, D&D is made, to be this or to be that or to totally detrimental to where it's like, I try to talk to somebody who would never do this in a million years and they're just like, well, I thought D&D was for this or for that or for, this group of people and whatever. No, it's for everyone. We don't need to go online and make it even more difficult for people to not join the game. It doesn't make sense to me. If the discourse online all the time is just like, well, this clearly podcast is not helping. But if the discourse is always like, why is it that D&D in particular has all these bad things? People are going to come into our community and be like, oh, wow, D&D is just it's the League of Legends of TTRPGs, and it brings in the worst kind of people, and it's so toxic and grindy and whatever. That shouldn't be the discourse, right? I don't understand if it's a lack of just like nerd worldview. It's like, it's going to happen no matter what and everything. And it's okay because not only do you get to understand different people and their outlooks and, their problems that they have with this game and life and things like that, it also helps you develop skills to be able to interact better and handle these situations a bit more. Well, I don't want to. I just want to play the game. Well, yeah, but it's like it's not the end of the world if you have someone who's like, well, actually, we put the dunce hat on them, tell them to shut up, they poop in their diaper, and we move on. Okay, so it's not the healthiest thing to be talking about that. I understand, but guys, come on. It is not the worst thing in the world. Hey, Zach, Jacob Clark, 932, sent $2. Hey, Zach, I love your content, especially this podcast. Question for you. Will you ever record and upload your home D&D game, similar to Critical Role or Dimension 20? I'd love to see you in a DM campaign. Thanks. That is going to be a project for a later time. I still would love to do the thing where in my Discord, I make a world. I have it where groups of people play in this world, and then we play in the world after you guys have played through that campaign for like 4 to 8 months. And then that way, people can watch and be like, oh my gosh, like this building isn't there anymore because my group destroyed it. And it's like, going into doing Minecraft roleplay in a Minecraft anarchy server, you know what I mean? Like something like that. I think it'd be cool to do that. I want, and I've said this before, and no diss on anything online or anything. I'm in an online actual play, but I want it to be in person, and I want to have a tight group. I want it to be well produced. I want it to be well ran, and it's something that I don't have the resources to do right now. I'd love to be a part of something that is like that, but nothing is in the immediate future, and it'll probably be months. I'm hoping to get 2 more cameras, to be honest with you, in order to be able to do something like that, but it is not at this time. I have a homebrew world. I would love to play in it. I've written a lot about it, and it would be very like, it would be produced in a way that like an actual play, it would be overproduced for an actual play, right? Because I like making soundscapes. I like making different things for, different games that engage my players in a different way. Like the dome is a great way in Dimension 20. The lights change, there's smoke and noises and stuff like that. It'd be something like that. I mean, I won't expect to have like an LED paneled dome to play the game, but as of right now, nothing's in the immediate future, but there is, of course, like something I want to do. And that's the thing too, is I'm trying to also do things in a way that makes it so that I'm also refreshing things for myself, whether it be longer form skits or, the podcast, or even just, like branching out to what I want to do. I'm already Unk status, guys. I'm Unk status. So what do I want to do in 10 years from now? What do I want to build and improve my skill set in order to do from 10 years from now? Is that producing actual plays? I don't think so. I think it's something like I want to be a storyteller, and if I want to make a world that people want to listen to, if that makes sense. So Yeah, nothing is in the immediate, but when it does come out, I want it to be well done. So thank you guys all for watching. My name is Zachary Ronaldo, better known as Zach the World Builder Online, better known as Zach the Bold. Thank you for writing in your questions, BoldTakes@outlook.com. I will see you next week. Apologies again for the late upload. I hope you have a great week. And yeah, love you. Bye.